Hello, everybody, and welcome back to the channel to the latest episode of the High Ground podcast. I lost my StreamYard window, but okay, there we go. And yeah, today we are going to be talking about Legends and diving deep because if you guys follow me on TikTok, you'll know that I've been on a Legends kick lately. So I'm excited. I have an awesome group of people to talk to. And yeah, let's go ahead and get into it. Right here on the High Ground. All right. How's everyone doing?
Hello there.
Hello. And I want to say hey
Come on,
to
Choco, you know the appropriate response is General Kenobi.
you're absolutely right. You're well, sometimes I like to say hello, come here, my little friend. But you know the old school hello there from A New Hope. I was just checking out to see who I got in the chat, so I just wanted to shout out to Carter, Carter2D2 here, Ace Bronx is in the chat, Harris Productions, Star Wars MCU OG, DePaul, and Rashik. Hello, and welcome. Yeah, we're going to dive into Legends and have a blast. But first, I want to go around and introduce everyone here. And today, we are going to start with, let me see here. Yeah, so who are you? Where can we find you and your stuff? And if you are a Padawan or a Sith Apprentice or a new bounty hunter or whatever you want, you can have any mentor in the Star Wars universe. Who are you going to pick and why? And I'm going to go to Twisty Rose first. Oh, sorry, you're muted right now.
Sorry.
No worries.
I'm Christy. You can find me on TikTok as Twin Sun. I cosplay Jaina Solo. If I was anyone, I think I would want Mara Jade. I feel like she would kick my ass into shape, and I need that.
Absolutely. Awesome. And then how about you? Well, according to the Sokovian, or how do you want me to refer to you on the podcast? And you're also muted.
You can call me Krim or Sokovian, whichever one rolls off the tongue more conveniently for you. I would have to say that my ideals align much closer to the Mandalorian creed of Rezulnare than it would be to anything else. So I'd have to say that I would want to be taken under training by the Mandalorian caste. Warriors, the warrior culture there is absolutely what I would need to be kicked into shape, as Twisty said. So that would definitely be my pick.
Awesome. Well, is there any particular Mandalorian, or just as long as you're part of the creed?
Well, I don't think that I would be I don't think it would be up to me to pick my trainer according to the culture. They would watch the trials, and they would. It's similar to how the Jedi have picked their Padawans. They watch them kind of like interacting, and then typically it's based on what clan you're a part of. You can be adopted in the Mandalorian culture, so it would probably be according to whatever clan I came across, that if they saw anything redeemable in me that they would want to bring out, then they would make the choice whether to offer me a place in their clan.
Awesome.
Question then, quickly, Krim, if is there a particular era within the Mandalorian history that you would prefer? Since technically you're right, because you can't pick the your trainer, but is there a particular era you would like to be a Mandalorian in?
That's actually a really interesting question. I've actually never really considered that. I would have to say that Definitely not the Crusades. They were a bit too. I don't know. I mean, I like combat as much as the next guy, but with the aggressive expansionism, it's just sounds a little stressful. So I would have to say probably around the time of Jaster Muriel. I would want Jaster Muriel to take me in. The mentor
Okay.
of Jango Fett.
Yeah, so we're talking open seasons, Jaster Muriel, not
Absolutely.
1993 when that was Boba Fett's name.
No. Either Jaster Muriel from Open Seasons as Jango Fett's mentor, which would be pre-Phantom Menace, or I would have to say Boba Fett post BJ in Legends. And there is precedent for that because he takes Murtagh under his wing as his apprentice.
Yeah. Absolutely. Also, they're very supportive of whipping Jaina into shape a bit later in the timeline. But yeah, how about you, Coop? Who are you? Where can we find you? And yeah, who's your mentor?
Okay, awesome. First of all, yes, I'm Coop. You can find me at Certified Gumbo on all social channels. That is Facebook, Twitter, Instagram. No TikTok though, but the big main three. We're working on the TikTok, and then also on YouTube at Certified Gumbo. But yeah, mentor, interesting. I think I will go. I'm gonna cape for the Old Republic here, and I'm gonna go Baltha Lucius, Jedi Master Baltha Lucius.
Okay, nice. For a second, I thought you were gonna go with like Valentine Farfalla.
Oh man, no. I've got like, just I love the Old Republic as a whole in general. So I think that time period doesn't get enough love. So I don't know. I'm gonna try and stay within that realm, that area.
No, that's perfect. It's just fine. I will say, at least for today, we do want to kind of talk more about the post Return of the Jedi, because I do have a whole separate plan for just Old Republic. I'm going to do a whole episode just on that, so I may have to have you back as well for that one. But yeah, let's jump into it. And real quick, I want to say thank you so much for Ace Bronx. We always like to talk to the donations in terms of ramen, and that's one of the big packs. I can get my fire chicken, the volcano chicken, and thank you also to Paul. Jack Brody says Legends Part 2. This isn't my first Legends one, episode 17. It was a long time ago, so Jack Brody's been around for a long time. Dr. Gento saying hey from San Diego, which I'm currently in, so that's awesome. And Element 7 is make me notice that my sound sounds like it's coming from the wrong spot, so I'll have to take a look at that when I get a chance. But I appreciate you, brother. Yeah. So I gotta ask, and I guess I'll go to Krim first. What was your first? By the way, I do want this to be conversational, but I'll call on someone first so that we can get someone going, so we're not all tripping. But yeah. What was your first Legends book, and what made you fall in love with Legends?
That's actually a tough question, because for most of my young adult life, I spent it just nose deep in the books, and so I read so many Legends. It's hard to remember exactly which one was my first, but I think that the one that caught my eye initially was the Court of Princess Leia. That one, that entire saga was so interesting to me, between her and Han Solo. When they leave off at Return of the Jedi, they really have this connection. And so when I was thinking about what I wanted to read, I kind of saw it actually in the library, and I thought to myself, I'm going to pick this up, because I haven't really read much in terms of Star Wars books. I had read a little bit of the Clone Wars, but that Karen Travis wrote. But I don't exactly remember too much of that at that time. It wasn't until much later that I really went back and dove into it. So I think the first one that really I went cover to cover on was the Courtship of Princess Leia.
Nice. No, great place to start. I especially loved. I mean, I talk about all the time how I feel like we need more factions. You know, and once we find out about like the Hapes Consortium, like we do in that book, and plus we get to see people riding Rancors and stuff. Like, yeah, it's just dope.
Yeah, very interesting stuff.
How about you, Coop? And you're muted.
Mute myself. Yeah, I started talking and I noticed that my mic was muted. I think so. That's it. Like Krim, that is an interesting question because growing up, you know, Star Wars was just Star Wars. So, I think honestly, my first, if we can include comic books into this book discussion.
Oh yeah.
Tales of the Jedi was my introduction into what is now considered Legends. But if we're sticking past episode 6, then it was definitely Heirs to the Empire, which I read. I think I was either senior in high school or in college when I read that book. So it was well after it had come out, but I'd kind of stuck with, as a child, in, you know, my younger years, I stayed on the video games and like with the comics because that was, and with the Old Republic stuff because for me personally, I was more interested in the Jedi versus Sith stuff. And like, I was like, yo, I need 100 Jedi versus 100 Sith. And like, also those stories were like what captured my attention for, you know, in my younger years. But as I got older, I started to, you know, dive more into the lore. And yeah, so a lot of people were telling me about Heir to the Empire, a lot of my friends and relatives. And so that was my recommendation and definitely enjoyed it.
Awesome. And I got some representation here for the Jedi Apprentice series. And Tour Squad.
Hey.
Also, always got to shout out. Sorry, that was mine. Always got to shout out X-Wing, who's going to be streaming on his channel a little bit later tonight. So sadly, I can't join him, but I'm going to have him on here soon.
Dude, I'm like Rogue Squadron was like, but Rogue Squadron was like the first Star Wars video game I played on Nintendo 64. I can't tell you how many hours I put in that game. Oh my goodness gracious. Dude, what?
Oh man. So for me, I was absolutely obsessed with Jedi Academy. I still play Jedi Academy.
Yes. That's a good...
It actually makes you feel like a Jedi. You get dropped on a map. You have no idea where you're supposed to go, what you're supposed to find. You just have to figure it out. Sometimes you get disintegrated by like a random disruptor that you didn't see. Yeah, that game's rough.
My dad had one of those original like Nintendos, and they had the Return of the Jedi game, and you literally could not get past the Tatooine part. Like, I'm pretty sure we played that until that thing broke, and you could never beat it.
All of those Super Star Wars games were just rough. Like, they did not play nice.
Man, we got shout out to LucasArts, man. Like, good God, they put out some legendary content back in the day. They had I can't think of a bad game that they put out, to be honest. And I might have my rose-colored glasses on as a Star Wars fan, but I can't name one bad game that they ever released.
Yeah, I mean, to you, Christy.
Okay, so Jedi Quest and Jedi Apprentice, I remember getting those books younger. But what really got me into Legends was someone gave me an Invincible book, The Invincible from Legacy of the Force. I'd never read that series.
That's the last book.
I know. They didn't know that. They just knew, that I like Star Wars. So I read it, and I'm like, this is so cool. I have no idea what's happening, but this is so cool. So then I was like, it might be a good idea to start from the beginning. And so I think then the first one we found was like Vector Prime. But I just remember like I'd always loved Star Wars. So when I first got those books, they're all I read. I think it's Jedi Quest. They have one book, and it's very rare. The only place that we could find it was in the Library of Congress in DC because I lived in Virginia at the time. So I literally had to rent the book from Congress just to read it. And then we just lost him.
Alrighty.
The host has exited the building.
That was
That's interesting. Actually, I guess we can chop it up a little bit for a second. Okay, here it is. I was gonna go into those bounty hunter. You know, Coop, you kind of threw me off there. I didn't even think about it, but I think that Open Seasons was actually the first bit of media I consumed. If we're talking about comics, I was thinking strictly books for some reason. But after playing Star Wars Bounty Hunter, that was my game back in the day. And then Open Seasons along with it, that Dark Horse con. The Jango Fett, yeah, Jango Fett's story.
Oh, dude, that game was crazy.
Yeah.
It's so good, bro. So good.
Okay, I gotta say, back then though, they did the thing where the camera followed your like right stick, like wherever you were looking, rather than where it's separate. And so, as much as I loved those games, got car sick playing them every single time. Like,
oh no,
Spyro the Dragon. I loved that game, but I would almost throw up every time I played it. And like, my parents were like, "If it makes you sick, don't play it." I'm like, "No, man." It's worth it.
I think you'd have to push through Bounty Hunter because that one was special.
Well, now is Bounty Hunter on PC? I know that they redid it.
Steam.
Yeah. So when they brought them to PC, you can actually they're playable now for me.
Yeah, I think all of the games now are technically on Steam for the most part, minus probably Galaxies, but you can find Galaxies if you know where to look. Because I know there's some servers for Star Wars Galaxies that are like private that you can play if you have like the hard copy of the game. So yeah,
Absolutely.
I always wanted to play that. I never actually got a chance though.
Same here.
I did, dude. Underrated Star Wars experience. Like, it was almost the perfect Star Wars game. Like, when I tell you, like, you literally could make any type of character that you wanted to, and they just dropped you in the world, and it's like, all right, do whatever you want to do. Man, that game was wild, bro. It was way ahead of its time.
I'm hoping in the future for some type of like Star Wars No Man's Sky type game where they just kind of dropped you in and you just
that's what that game was. I'm telling you, like, it was crazy ahead of its time. Like, you
they just need to make 1313.
All the factions. Yeah, like they had all the factions in there. You could be like you could be a farmer. You could be a moisture farmer. Like, there every type of like class that was ever introduced in Star Wars up to that point you could pursue, and like it was very hard to become a Jedi when the game first launched. But I just don't think they knew or understood how to market that game.
we have a bunch of people calling in, and I'm just loving it.
Full agreeing and ready to go.
The call signs, dude. I
cut the chatter red too.
I have a red car and the license plate says red 5 standing by.
Hey, that's awesome.
The best thing I could find. It took me like weeks to find it, but I found it.
And we have some people also calling out their favorite stories. No, it's awesome. All right, so I got to ask the hard question now. Obviously, this is I like to talk about stuff that people love and keep it a positive conversation. But I got to ask, how did you feel when you heard about the rebranding to Legends and that we were going to get, these canon books coming out? How did that hit you? I'll go to Coop first.
Oh, man. Well, I think we got Krim's answer right there. So initially I was confused because at that point in time, like, I was like, all right, well, George kind of already said that if he didn't shoot it or if it hadn't appeared on screen, it didn't canon anyway. But then when they kind of clarified it and was like, oh no, we're just kind of reconsolidating canon, and we'll figure out how it's possible that these stories could come back into play at some point in time. But I think for me, I was more interested in knowing what they were planning to do with the stories. But it didn't really upset me all that much. Well, honestly, the Old Republic stuff did upset me because, like I said, that's my jam right there. So losing that was like, but I wasn't like the biggest fan of the content past 6. Heir to the Empire, that trilogy, the Thrawn trilogy was great. I wasn't a big fan of the Vong War. Only not the war itself, but like the Vong as characters, because
they're disgusting. Yeah.
Well, I mean, them just being almost immune to the Force is like, I just could not jam with that like whole concept. I felt like personally like George would never like be okay with that. So it didn't make it. I don't know. I wasn't a fan of that, and I kind of like didn't like the fact that it stayed kind of sort of within the Skywalker legacy. Like all of the heroes were basically the next generation of Skywalkers, and like it didn't leave room for other characters to come from other, walks of life and other lineages to become heroes. And like with the Old Republic, like you had such a diversity of heroes from all areas of the galaxy who were not like legacy characters. And that to me was cool because in my head canon, I could put myself in these stories and like be a hero. So like the younger me was like, yeah, no, this era is way cooler. And like I said, Jedi and Sith like run around all day. Like I can't go wrong there. So that's kind of sort of where that's how I felt about it.
Yeah. How about you, Christy?
I was pretty upset. I just had grew up on this. This is what I knew to be the story afterwards. But I do kind of understand, like, it's just a lot. Like, you can't really fit all of it into, like, 3 movies. So I understand, like, why they rebranded things. But I could be wrong, and this goes off what Coop said. I do know that while George Lucas didn't play too much of a role in Legends, they had to run certain things by him. And the reason they went with the Vong not being Force is because they had this whole thing of it being like Sith and whatever, and he said no. He said, if you're going to continue it, don't have it be another Force thing. And I could be wrong, but that's something that I've read and heard like since then. But that's where that idea came from. Also, too, it was supposed to be like Anakin Solo was the hero, and he said no, too close to Anakin Skywalker. So then they killed him and made Jason the like turn to the dark side kind of thing. But yeah, and I still hate to admit this, but I haven't seen the new Disney Star Wars movies. I'm stubborn, and I said I was never going to watch them. But now it's like I've said it for so long that I have to keep going. Just a pride thing. It's not even that I don't want to see them. It's just that I've said that I'm not doing it, so I'm not going to do it.
Hey, to each their own. I mean, the way I always see it is that, like you vote for your content with your time, with your attention, with your money. I would much rather someone say, hey, this isn't for me, or, I don't want to support this. Much rather that than I'm going to make hours and hours of content just hating something. That's weird.
I mean, maybe one day I'll cave and just see. But right now, I'm like, I mean, I rode Riders.
I don't have the energy to
Disney, but I was like, I don't know what's happening.
Yeah, I don't have the energy to spew hate about anything. Like, if I don't like it, I'm just not going to give it any type of energy at all. Like, I was like, don't care. Moving on.
Yeah.
Like, just, but hey, I teach his own.
Oh, hey, and that's what
I had a couple questions actually.
Yeah.
So for should I call you Rose or what's your name? I'm sorry.
It's Christy.
Christy. Okay. So, Christy, when you say you haven't seen any Disney Star Wars, are you referring specifically to the movies, or are
I
you
have
more
seen-
like saying the entire? Because if you have
No.
Mandalorian, I just cry.
Oh, I love The Mandalorian. And I've seen Clone Wars.
Okay.
Have you seen Rebels?
I'm trying to start
Okay.
into Rebels, but I just recently got into Marvel because I hadn't seen that before.
Oh,
But I had surgery, so I was like,
that's a whole thing.
because then I was like, I had surgery, so I was bed bound. So I was like, what can I watch that's long? So I started Marvel. So Rebels has kind of been now on the back burner because I'm all like catching up on Marvel.
Gotcha.
Absolutely.
Yeah, definitely.
Well, if
check
I
out
may-
Rogue One if you haven't seen that.
I've seen Rogue One and
Okay.
Solo.
All right.
Okay, so it's more the time.
What did you think of those movies?
Okay.
I liked them. I don't know why people don't like Rogue One, but I loved Rogue One. I thought it was good.
I don't understand the hate
I
towards
actually-
Rogue One either.
Wasn't a huge fan of Rogue One, and it was mostly due to the massive plot holes that were contained therein. But that's just my personal thing. I think that obviously the film is visually great. I think that the performances are compelling, and I think that the story is interesting. I just think that there's a lot of plot holes in the writing. So that was my main critique for the film. A lot of things that, while I was watching it, left me scratching my head. Like, why would they do that? Oh, why is that happening? And, of course, it's like, they're all gonna die. I saw that by the opening scroll. It's like, so it's not really enjoyable for me if I'm not surprised at all by a film. If there's not really much that I can say, oh, that's really original, or wow, I never would have thought of that. Like, those are the things that really engage me. And in the writing and just in the film itself, there wasn't anything that I didn't see coming, except for Darth Vader. I didn't expect that he'd show up, and that's probably the best part of the film for me. So,
and then for me, it was actually the lowest on my list.
Rogue One?
I had it below Rise of Skywalker for a long time, but I started doing this podcast, right? And like I said, I talk about things, and I have people on where that's their favorite thing. So I had a bunch of people on. Rogue One's their absolute favorite movie. I got to hear the things that they loved about it and why. Rewatched the movie, and it moved up a few spots on my list because I'm like, oh, I get it now. It's still not super high, but it's all good.
It's not high up on my list. But I thoroughly enjoyed the movie because it felt grounded to me, and like it was different enough that for me, like, it gave me a little hope in that they would be able to tell some original stories within Disney. And so that was kind of like, oh, all right, there are some plot holes for sure. I still don't understand how the Tantive 4 was on board the ship at the end. Like, I'm like, yeah, you
it gave birth.
It's
okay. That's where ships come from.
Nope.
Real quick, I do want to shout out. Thank you so much, X-Wing. I appreciate it. It's definitely a lot of ramen. So, absolutely appreciate you. And I also, so I have quite a few. Well, not a few, but there's a few questions kind of in chat about the difference in nature between Legends and canon now, because we've seen certain things kind of get changed in canon, some small aspects of it. So I just want to take a second to just kind of explain that the big difference is in the nature of those changes. With what we currently have is actually a two-way street, versus in the past where Lucas just ignored things and just kind of went forward with whatever he wanted. So,
oh my God, yes.
Boba Fett which is one thing I find funny is Boba Fett in the late 80s in the comics was a clone already. Like, that's what they were writing. And then in the 90s, they wrote that he was a super commando. And then after that, they wrote that he was a stormtrooper who killed his commanding officer, and like so certain things kept changing. So the big difference is under Legends, if there was a contradiction, that story just kind of gets tossed into the bin. Versus now, when something like Ahsoka's lightsabers were blue in season 7 of Clone Wars versus green in the book. Well, yes, that's a small contradiction. It doesn't knock the book or its contents out of continuity. As well as when new projects are created, they still consider the books, and that's why we got Timothy Oliphant as Cobb Vanth, for instance. It's a two-way street now, so that's a big difference. But if someone's looking to like start reading Legends for the first time, what do you tell them? What do you recommend? Let's go to Krim first.
If I may, initially, I didn't get a chance to answer your previous question about how I felt about the Legends thing.
Oh, yes.
When I switched over, I did want to.
I thought it was a
really
more
quickly.
theatrical. But yeah, you could do.
Yeah,
both.
no, nothing so dramatic. But I would say that initially I was really disappointed, but I got really excited because I thought, well, because my friends had reason to be trying to talk me off the ledge, saying, well, maybe they just don't want to be restricted by the books. Maybe they have an idea that they can use those storylines and expound upon them, which really got me hyped. You know, I got super, super hyped up, especially when I heard about, eventually with The Force Awakens and everything. And then it was talking, I was reading the predictions about how it's going to be Han Solo's son. And I was like, Jason's going to be in it. And then I was looking at Rey and I was just like, Mara Jade! And it didn't really play out that way, unfortunately. There was a lot of disappointment there, but for a long time I clung to hope that the time and the years that was put into the effort put into the EU and learning it, and maybe early on there were some misfires and some different mistakes and inconsistencies, but for sure later on, especially with Bantam, and you talk about the continuity. Sorry, I had to pull an Anakin there. But when you look at the timeline there, let's look at this. Let's look at all these books, huh?
Mm-hmm.
All of that. This massive timeline in investment, and they're all connected. They're all these authors sought approval for their writing. All these authors screened it by somebody. They all communicated, not necessarily with each other, but like for the most part, a lot of them did. Especially like when you talk about Aaron Alston, Michael Stackpole, Timothy Zahn, Karen Travis, these heavy hitters in the EU. They communicated to make it unified, to make all the stories mesh and the characters make sense and carry over. And so when I heard that was basically not going to be a thing anymore, I was disappointed. But then I was redeemed and held out a lot of hope. And the sequel trilogy, unfortunately, didn't deliver what I had envisioned. So I guess that was like the culmination of all that hope over that set of years. Even when I was a kid reading the books, the sequel trilogy was like what I imagined they would be able to do to carry out those visions, those dreams as a kid, and then it was kind of like met with the ultimate disappointment. So I guess that's where that was for me. But as far as where I would recommend people start with the Legends, I would definitely say that the Han Solo books would be advisable. If they're looking for like standalone stuff, you can do the Tales from the Empire, Slave Ship, all those sorts of stories are pretty good. Tales from the Empire isn't really connected to much of anything. Lore-wise, it's kind of like a bunch of standalone stories, as well as the Bounty Hunters. That's a really good one. Kevin J. Anderson does a good job. Slave Ship, those are nice, but definitely when you talk about the Paradise Snare, the Hot Gambit, and Rebel Dawn, as far as the Han Solo trilogy, those books are so good, especially to start out. It really kind of
Interesting,
introduces
yeah.
you to the larger universe that is held within the EU. If you don't want to talk about any characters that are like really integral to the original trilogy, like Coop mentioned, legacy characters, as you call them, I would highly recommend the X-Wing series, because that really explores more the other side of things. I mean, you get to look at the Empire, you get to look at those pilots that work to bring down the warlords post RTJ, and that's a really good series to start with as well.
Yeah, absolutely. The X-Wing books were great, and I really did enjoy that trilogy. I just want to say thanks again, X-Wing. I know he's going to go make some content right now, so I look forward to checking that out once we get to that point. Coop, what are you recommending?
Okay, so I think that for me, it depends on what you're interested in when it comes to Star Wars. I think some of like that's what I would ask, because that's kind of sort of what guided me down the path to Legends. Like, it was what I was kind of sort of interested in learning more about, and for me it was like I wanted to know more about the origins between the Sith and the Jedi. So, Tales of the Jedi is where I started. So I think that's probably the most important question for anyone to ask. I think if you want to know what happened to Luke after Return of the Jedi, then yeah, pick up Heir to the Empire and follow that lineage and legacy all the way to its end. One of the things that I got to mention that turned me off about the post 6 content was when they killed Chewie with a moon. I was like, bro, come on. Get me out of here. I pulled the eject button fast. I'm like, I'm out. Come on. What is this?
Well, that's kind of far into it.
I was like,
how much read before that, or did you skip?
No, I was told. I was told about this. I was told, and I didn't believe it. Like, my cousin was telling me, like, "Yo, they killed Chewie," and I was like, "What do you mean?"
Right.
And then they were like,
and it was early on.
Happened. I'm just like, oh, like what? No. Oh man, but yeah. So yeah, it's an like Legends. The Legends material, the old canon is such an interesting spread of content, because, like, to Krim's point, you have a lot of authors that were in constant and direct communication with each other across different time periods, and like Lucasfilm and George Lucas kind of let them do their thing up to a certain point. Like, they would, like, if it came to Luke Skywalker or like his characters, the characters that he created, then he'd be like more involved in like what they did. But if it was like stories that didn't, have any of the original trilogy cast, like, he really didn't monitor that stuff that much. And that unfortunately meant that when it came to making new content, like, he would just decide either he wasn't aware and didn't care, or he would just decide I'm not going with that, like, and just do his own thing. And so it was, I know a lot of people I see in the chat, people are talking about like the, continuity issues that we're having now with the lightsabers changing and all that stuff. And I'm like, yeah, it could be worse, because we've seen worse. We've experienced worse. But I thought that was the whole reason for them doing that in the first place, was to create continuity so that, there's a streamline of content. There's, everything is connected. All of these, amazing creators are communicating, and then, they have a plan for each time period and each era and all the stories that are being told and how they're going to be connected. So, like, I've always viewed that as a strength of the new canon. It's like, we know that somehow these stories are connected, and we can see some cross-pollination between stories, just like we did in the EU. Like, there's mentions and references to Exar Kun in stories that are way beyond the Old Republic. So, like, it's something that we've experienced with the EU, but I feel like it's more concentrated now than it was then. But Yeah, I mean, I would just say like, all right, what is it that you want to know? What do you want to learn more about? Like, is it the Sith? And like, you want to know more about the Role of Two? Go pick up the Darth Bane trilogy. Like, like, do you want to know more about the origins of the Jedi and the Force Wars on Tython? Like, Tales of the Jedi. Like, all of that's it's. If you want to know more about the Mandalorians, like the Mandalorian Wars, go pick up KOTOR. Like, KOTOR would teach you a lot about the Old Republic, and same as some other great Jedi Knight, Jedi Academy, like all of those. Like there's a lot of different ways that you can experience the EU content, and I just, whatever stories gravitate to you, like that's pick those up and run with them, because at the end of the day, like, a lot of that content is probably going to cycle back into canon at some point in a different form than we originally consumed it. But
not only that, but a good book is a good book.
Exactly.
A good book is a good book.
Stories.
How about you, Chris?
Can't get much better than Heir
Where
to
you
the
started?
Empire.
I usually do Heir to the Empire, or sometimes, depending on like who it is and how into Star Wars they are, sometimes skip it and go straight and like, here, read Vector Prime, but I will never warn them about Chewbacca. And I've gotten some pretty angry text messages from friends who are like super into Star Wars, and they're like, you didn't tell me. I'm like, that's the whole point. I'm not going to tell you.
So you're a huge troll. Gotcha.
Yeah.
Gotcha.
And I'm like, well, why didn't you do that? I'm like, it's important to the story later on and affects all the other characters. I was like, it's so sad. Hate that it happened. I have him sitting here with me now. But in the end,
I'm not mad that they killed Chewie. I'm mad how they killed Chewie. Like, that's what pisses me off. I'm like, he could have gone out in a way better, like, more epic way than that. Like,
I don't know.
What's more
I feel
epic
like,
than getting crushed by a moon?
yeah, but
I mean, come on.
like he can't be taking blasters.
What do you want?
Nothing.
Oh my
fighting
god,
people.
the Millennium Falcon
He's
can
saving
like
people.
outrun
I mean,
anything. They couldn't pick
It's
him
better
up.
than pretend killing him for 3 minutes with Force lightning.
That you're right. I've got complaints about that one too. I got smoke from that engine too.
Let's talk about how disrespectful his death is in the Force Unleashed. The second one
In the Force.
Do you remember Force Unleashed 2? The like.
Nope, I never finished that campaign.
Okay. Do you want to know how it happens?
Why do they do this to Chewie? Like, Chewie deserves a better fate than what he's gotten. Like, let's just agree on that.
I mean, Han didn't go out like a G in canon either, so...
That's a fact. Oh gosh, never mind. Anyways,
They did my boy Han dirtier than they did Chewbacca. Better than Chewie got hit by a moon than Han gets stabbed in that way. Come on, my man.
In the Force Unleashed,
Put my boy
Star
down,
Killer
bro.
on Endor jumps on top of the walker. Han goes to shoot Starkiller, and Starkiller palms Chewie by the top of his head, picks him up and puts him in the way of the bullet, making Han kill Chewie.
Oh, that's whack too. That's terrible.
Yeah.
That's horrible.
Yeah, that's the most disrespectful. He palmed him by the top of his head. Chewbacca is not a little person. Starkiller's been eating his Wheaties or something. I don't know, but yeah. So either way, it's going to be bad. Now, for me though, whenever people are asking me, my normal entry places that I tell people is Heir to the Empire. It's like that's an easy choice, because if they are currently watching stuff and they've watched Thrawn, it's going to be an interesting story, and I think it's really interesting how Timothy Zahn has been, even writing the canon Thrawn books as well, because the timeline still doesn't overlap. So you can actually read all of the canon Thrawn books and then read Heir to the Empire, and that story still works together.
That's very true.
They're even introducing like Pelion and all the and stuff in it. So I think that's interesting.
Wait, is Pelion in the new canon?
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
What?
Yes, we see young Pelion in the new canon novels. In that, the first new trilogy because what do we call that? Like, because I've been struggling to call the new Thrawn trilogy anything other than the new Thrawn trilogy. I guess I don't.
Okay, so the thing I call it the Thrawn trilogy now, and I call the old Thrawn trilogy the Heir to the Empire trilogy because the new Thrawn trilogy is about Thrawn. Heir to the Empire is not about Thrawn, you know.
Yeah.
But yeah. So I normally tell people that, or I tell people to start with the Bane trilogy. Now, Element 7 in the chat, he's going to disagree with me. He if you're going to go Old Republic, to start with Revan because it's the oldest in the timeline. But I'm like, no, this is the Darth Bane trilogy is the bridge from the Old Republic to the future, and so like getting that story like it amps you up to go back further and be like, okay, all right, how do we get to this point? That's just my opinion, but I might have to think about some other things since you guys mentioned like the Paradise Snare and those books. So there's a lot more.
Yeah, those are really good ones. What do you think about Outbound Flight?
Oh, I love Outbound Flight. I think that's one of the best Thrawn stories, and we have hints that Thrawn's brother. I can't remember his name. Might make an appearance in the next canon Thrawn book. So we'll see.
They've teased his sister as well, or an older sister.
Really?
Yeah,
I don't remember that, but I have to go back.
I think in the Ascendancy novels.
Is she die, or am I thinking of a different Chiss? I might be thinking of a different Chiss woman.
Yeah, I don't know.
So my buddy Isaac says the Bane trilogy is a little hard because of the start. It is a slow start because you have to kind of get through mining on Apatros and then being in the Sith army as a soldier. But once it starts moving, it's great stuff. But I gotta ask you guys, Lucasfilm has started releasing Legends action figures. Plus, they're starting to re-release some of the Legends books. This first round, we got Heir to the Empire, we got Shatterpoint, we got the first Bane book. I believe we got one more, and they're going to be releasing the sequels to those books and things like that this fall. Well, what does that mean? Does that excite you that they are still interested in the content? Does that mean we might get Sword of the Jedi, which I'm so sad? Koopa, what do you think?
Yeah, I think it's them indicating what we may or may not be seeing sometime in the near future. To your point earlier, Heir to the Empire is a interesting story, and it still kind of sort of fits in canon. And with the direction, and if you've been up on canon with the Mandalorian and then the Ascendancy trilogy and the new Thrawn trilogy, you can kind of see Heir to the Empire is not something that is with outside of the realm of possibility coming down the pipeline, or some iteration of it. So what they call this, it's a curated list, and they call it the Essential Legends Guide or something like that. It's Essential Legends something. But I think that a lot of those stories are going to come back into the fold. Like, we've heard rumors of a Mace Windu series in development, and they add Shatterpoint to the Essential Legends Guide. No, that is hardly a coincidence in my opinion. And then you've got the name drop of Thrawn in season 2 of Mandalorian. Am I spoiling stuff? Am I dropping spoilers? Okay, I'm sorry.
No.
I mean, if you haven't seen it,
I saw your reaction. I was like,
called it. I told him, I was like, Thrawn, they're mentioning the unknown worlds too much, and he was like, I don't know. And then all of a sudden they name dropped, and I was like, told you.
Yeah, they name dropped them, and then if you if you watch
Thrawn.
watching season, if you finished Rebels, then kind of sort of where the Ahsoka show is probably going to go. And all of it is within that time period of 6 to 9 years post RLTJ. So, I mean, Heir to the Empire, I think we'll see a retelling of that story, because one of the key character changes in Thrawn in the new canon is his loyalties. Like his potency and his tactical mind are as solid and as profound as they've been. But the biggest change, in my opinion, is his loyalty to his people, which sets up a lot, in my opinion. Like that, it says a lot. I've personally, the Ascendancy trilogy has been some of my favorite reading of the new Disney era canon. Like, because I mean, we haven't gotten this level of detail about the Chiss Ascendancy before, so that's been really fun for me to read.
But the last little bit of greater good, and I was like, no, I need more. Like, can it be November already?
I know. I flew through that book. That was a really good page turner, man. That was a good, solid second book for me. Like, I'm really enjoying that trilogy.
Yeah. Also, we have in name, Meet Your Cervic has also been added to canon, and there's some interesting things that have been getting pulled in. So that's pretty cool.
Yeah. Oh, you know what? If I were going to have if I were doing I did my mentor as a Jedi. If I were a Sith, it would definitely be Kreia.
Okay. Yeah. No, she has a lot of real deep conversations.
Oh yeah.
Man, what?
Can't argue with that. I can't argue with that.
Oh my god, dude.
All right, so I'm for sure bringing you back on my old Republic episode, and we'll spend a lot of time on that.
For sure. Hey, let me know. I'm game.
And Chrissy, what do you think? Does that this stuff is coming back? Does that mean anything?
I think they're putting things out because they're getting feelers of what people are interested in. Like, Thrawn is something that a lot of people loved, so it was really easy to bring him into the new canon. I think we keep hearing Mara Jade's name thrown around because a lot of people love her. And I think, too, that there's a way to bring her in without it messing up their new timeline. Like, her and Luke don't have to get married, but she can still be the Emperor's hand and, going after Luke, which is what I thought was going to happen in The Mandalorian, and then I was wrong. So I was a little sad about that. Because I thought they were going to send her after Grogu because it could lead her to Luke, and that didn't happen. But I think they're trying to get feelers of what people are interested in.
It's still a possibility.
I say it's still in play. I wouldn't rule it out.
I wouldn't throw it out the window completely.
Nope. Oh no, I have hope, but I've also learned not to get too much hope in certain things.
Was that so is this a real rumor, or is that something that I just saw in the Discord? But someone said that Omega was Mara Jade.
Oh my god!
And I was like, oh my god, we're doing this again.
We gotta stop it.
We're doing this. We're going out of hand with these theories.
That bunny is
this
Mephisto.
is getting out of hand.
As soon as they put her in the trailer for that first Bad Batch teaser, people are like, oh, it's Palpatine's son, daughter. And I'm like, oh my god, y'all don't stop.
I called it. I said she was a female clone.
It is. Like, we love Mephisto in ourselves over here in the Star Wars universe.
Don't do us like that, Julia Christine. Don't confirm and fake news.
We were over here looking at the Marvel fans like, bro, what's the big deal? We do this like every trailer that drops. Some out of pocket theory is on the internet next. Like, it's ridiculous.
And then I gotta do a shout out because I have both DePaul and X-Core Gamer Skills in the chat here. They actually just started their podcast. It's called Conspiracy Cantina, and it's here on YouTube.
Oh my
so
God.
if you want some conspiracies and just some cool people talking about stuff, you can check them out. But just wanted to shout out my homies. No, I have to make so much content because people are like, Omega is Captain Phasma. I know it, and you're like, Captain Phasma is not like 80 years old.
Nobody is paying attention to the timeline.
Time
is a thing in Star Wars.
Oh yeah,
and she actually has.
Well, she could have got frozen. She could have got frozen into a time capsule.
They're
and
gonna freeze her in carbonite.
Found by pirates and swallowed by a Sarlacc, spat out the other side. Maybe the planet blew up when the Death Star killed it. Then her pod went flying across the galaxy, and then she was floating in the unknown regions, and they just picked her up with a tractor beam.
Oh, I like it. I like it. It was a carbonite rancor or something that swallowed her and froze her, and then spit her into space. And then someone found her 70 years later, and like Captain Phasma. No,
it was a Purrgil.
Same thing for people were wondering if Iden Versio was the stormtrooper in there. But again,
definitely could be her mom though. I don't think it is, but they could just be like, oh yeah, it's her mom. That's what George would do.
That is what George would do.
George would do it in a heartbeat.
That's the problem. I love George. Sometimes we give too much weight because he's like, all right, this guy, he's selling drugs and his name is Elon Sleaze Bagano, and you're like, really? And Jon Stewart asked, where is Obi-Wan from? Stew John. Like,
oh God.
Come on, man! Like you gotta try something.
What George always reminded me of was. I'm a lore master. My friends love to play D&D. We do Star Wars RPG. And sometimes when you get asked a question and they just expect you to know, you say something like Stugon. Sometimes it just happens. You just be that way. Like exactly when you have the entire story in the palm of your hands and you're just looking at it like, where am I gonna...
his story. Like, what are you gonna say? No.
Yeah, exactly. Who are we, right? He's the lore master. He's literally the lore master.
He wanted Wookiees, on Endor, but it didn't work story wise, and so he's like, Wookiees, Ewoks. Yeah, and you're like,
it was also a budget thing. Because I've read that somewhere. Like, it was also the budget for the costumes. Like, was like out of hand to get that many people in Wookiee costumes.
You can't get that
they cut them into thirds.
Yes, basically,
they just cut them into thirds.
They just trimmed down,
just divided them up amongst the children.
All
right, everybody, bring your kids to work day. Make sure that they are capable of understanding commands and are okay with wearing full fur costumes.
You laugh, but I mean, like, I don't know. That's super plausible. They're like, okay, we'll just cut them.
Get that kid a cup of coffee. I want yub nubbing all day. You hear me?
It's like
yub nub.
We have a shortage of 7-footers. What can we do? Well, pretty sure it's easier to find shorter people than it is to find tall people.
Yep. Absolutely.
Whoa. Don't go assuming people's heights now.
Hey, children, boom. That's what they use. Children, and where they could find dwarves, they would use dwarves.
Which, by the way, I'm happy because a lot of people hated the Ewoks. I'm happy that we got Ewok Hunt on Battlefront 2, just to show people.
Do you remember
nothing to mess with.
Do you remember the Ewoks on Battlefield, on the first Battlefield series on PlayStation 2 and Xbox?
Battlefront?
They were terrifying too. Yeah, Battlefront.
Yeah.
Ewok Hunt is no joke.
People
they
forget.
Spears.
You forget because it's children and little people in the costumes. It's hard to suspend the imagine. But that's a bear, right? That's stronger than a full-grown human, like by a lot. And it's smart enough to wield weapons and build traps.
They have very small hitboxes.
And they eat people. I always say this. They were not celebrating at the end of 6 because the Empire was defeated. They don't care.
They ate them.
They were celebrating having meat. Like, we have so much food now. And you're like,
they ate all those dead stormtroopers. They have all of those helmets they have those helmets for a reason. Like, what do you think happened to the bodies?
It's just a good thing that the rebels were there to, like, at least take the survivors and be like, oh, you guys, you have plenty. We're gonna take these guys. And the stormtroopers were probably like, please put me in prison, please, dear God. I mean, Jesus.
And they actually touched on that in Forces of Destiny of like, don't let them eat those people, please. And Han's like, I was gonna stop them, but then I don't know, like, yeah. Krim, your thoughts. Sorry, we got off topic, but your thoughts on does it mean anything that Lucasfilm is coming back out with these books, re-releasing them?
I mean, it means that their heads aren't that far up their butts. I mean, it's money. It's free money. I mean, you're gonna tell me that if you re-release this paperback novel that I have and you release it in like a really nice hardcover version, I mean, they did it with the Han Solo trilogy with Barnes and Nobles. I don't know if you can see this. Is a nice hardcover. It's got really cool art. Total shameless plug. Buy it, guys. Look, but it's like it's very cool. Like, I mean, I picked it up. I have it. I'm not gonna open it up because I have the paperbacks that I've worn to shreds already. But it's free money. It's free money. I mean, if I see a Mara Jade action figure, Black Series, bro. If I see a Jaina Solo,
they have it. I have it.
I'm picking it up.
As soon as they released.
I was about to say, I've seen those
in my Amazon cart.
Nice.
There are a lot of those.
Well done.
Well, they took them off of the market for a while, but they have been slowly coming back into circulation. So they definitely look out for those.
Supply and demand. But I mean, it's money. And it just creates more marketing for them. It makes those of us that were less than thrilled about the sequel trilogy, when they release these EU content and everything, it gets us excited. It gets everybody talking about Star Wars again. Something they should have been doing the whole time, to be honest with you.
Yeah. And I really agree with Christie's assessment of it, because we have a couple things at play. I think it's smart that they weren't doing it for a while, because let's face it, I get asked a lot of time, often, whenever I talk about Legends, like, there's so much Legends content. I've personally read 133 books, and I am not halfway done. Like, there's a ton of stuff out there. And so people are like, we don't know how to get started, where to get started. Makes sense that they would say, you know what, we need it. Plus, just there's quite a bit of messy stuff. Also, Jaina Solo is my favorite Star Wars character, and we're gonna get into that. But not all the stories are great. So that's a thing. So it makes sense that they were like, okay, we want to do a clean slate. We're going to start with everything George considered canon and do this. And we want to start building this for these new... we would start building something for the next generation. But right now, I feel like what they're doing is awesome. We have our base, and we're making it broader, right? Star Wars is for everyone. We're going to make content that these people over here are going to like. We're going to make content that these people over here are going to like. And we're going to hit the point where there's so much content that you're not going to be able to just consume all of it. You're just going to consume the stuff that you like. And I think that's the best place to be. You know what I mean?
Definitely a decent place to be in.
Yeah.
And
personally, I love the High Republic. I've been reading that stuff as well. It's not for everyone.
No, it's not.
Re-release Legend stuff. You can have that. People can have this. I think it's great. What were you gonna say, Krim?
Oh, I had when Christy was talking, I had a train of thought, and then I kind of lost it later on. But I did want to say it's entirely possible for us to pick back up on those storylines, exactly like we were talking about with Thrawn, how they've brought him back, and that's excellent. That's great for the franchise. I mean, he's an amazing character, and to see them just even dip their toes into it, that's a big deal. And I think that I can only be happier as they continue to move through it. I mean, I don't think any EU fan could complain about Star Wars taking a Marvel approach, adapting the source material. And if you change it and put it on the screen, at least we're having something that we're familiar with, that we can really latch onto and think, well, they're not following it exactly, so what are they going to do with it exactly? Like the way we are with Thrawn right now, we have no clue what's going to happen. You know, they could introduce Mara Jade in like a name drop, or it could be just something like where you see the writing on the wall in an actual episode. Or maybe some Imperial documents. And it could be something like that. Honestly, the way that they have this time span, I always considered that Mara Jade could easily have been married to Luke Skywalker, right? But then Jason killed her along with all the other students. Jason. I called him Jason. Ben Solo killed her with all the other students at the temple, and that would be a part of why Luke is so devastated. But nobody talks about it in the sequel trilogy. But I mean, it just could be that nobody talks about it.
Well, and she's still kind of there's still a way to tell her story, and like to your point, like I don't mind the changes to any of the adaptations of any of the original stories from the EU. It's more or less the continuity and making sure everything flows and makes sense. Like don't start retconning stuff. Like, I have my issues with the sequel trilogy, but like I would hate for them to retcon that story. I feel like retconning is a cop out in my opinion. Like if you're creative and a good storyteller, if there are issues with the story, you should be able to creatively right those wrongs. If not to say, not to get on that spill, but like there are ways to make and tell, be creative with the stories that you tell, and they can do the same thing with these Legends characters, and incorporate them into the timeline.
Yeah, I mean, like Elements says here, right? There's 30 years of untold stories leading up to the sequels. There's lots and lots of stuff that we can fill. Like my mind goes to the Clone Wars show. Like there's a lot of information that without retconning the prequels, exactly. There was a lot of there was just missing information there.
Dude,
that we got
first
added.
Of all, we saw the beginning of the Clone Wars at the end of episode 2, and then the end of the Clone Wars at the beginning of episode 3. Like, bro, we missed the 3-year war. What? What?
And then we got 7 years of a 3-year war.
Exactly. Exactly.
So, all right. So while we're on the subject,
that's a great example. Like that's a prime example of how they can incorporate these stories. Like just take the same approach they did with Clone Wars. Like it's just context, right? Literally, you just add context to the story. Like adding this 30-year time period will add context to the sequel trilogy. It may not change people's opinion about the sequel trilogy, but that added context will help. Like for sure, you can't say it won't. Like,
I find that like in my discussions about it, there's a lot of things that people fundamentally misunderstood, or and I think clearing some of that up could definitely help. But let me ask you guys, since we're already kind of on the topic, what story or character would you want to bring into Legends, bring from Legends into canon, and do you have a way that you could do it without disrupting what's there? Or is that too complex of a question? You want me to?
No, that's easy.
It out now.
That's an easy question. I can't say Jaina or Mara because I'm sure that Christy's going to take that one. So I'll let you take that one, Christy. I'll be gracious about that. They already brought Wedge back, and there's a lot that they could do with him. But definitely,
poor Wedge.
Shout out to Wedge Antilles.
So sorry, I don't mean to cut you off, but I just think how both Legends and canon they make Wedge fall in love with someone, and then like cut that off like horribly. In canon, it does get fixed, but like a woman's dead husband who's disappeared like 10, 20 years ago comes back, and he's like, Oh, damn it. But sorry.
Wedge is
go
a
ahead.
great character. He's
Yeah.
really an amazing character. So are you just referring to like somebody who is not in canon at all right now that needs to come into canon, or somebody that we haven't really seen a lot of in canon that had a lot more in Legends?
Either way, I'm letting you interpret the question how you want.
Let's let Coop go, because now that you opened it up to letting me play with it a little bit, I might want to take a second.
Oh man, okay.
Well,
Okay,
let me
yeah.
let me go, and you guys can kind of like iron, iron it up. But there one character, and I will ask you guys about an underrated character in the future. This actually is not my underrated character, but one character that I did love is Winter. Winter was the aide of Leia. She's from Alderaan, and her thing is, she has an eidetic memory, and like she's just a tragic character who's super capable, highly intelligent. But you talk about Alderaan and her eidetic memory; she remembers everyone, every second on that planet, and all of it. And I think she could be an interesting, person if we introduce her back in as someone that works alongside or with Leia, or as part of a group of Alderaanians that are trying to put the pieces back from the destruction of their homeworld, because we don't really get to see, it's called the Alderaanian graveyard. I would love to see those people try to rehome themselves and like their own little thing pop up. That, or we need the Habes consortium in canon.
Okay, come on, Choco.
that
Can you
should
just pick
totally-
one, please?
That should totally be a thing. That should
Yeah,
totally be
but
a
for
thing.
sure.
I think character. I won't go character, but I would definitely go story. We touched on it, but I mean, Heir to the Empire is it's right there, and there is a way to bring that story into the fold, and retool it, because like I wouldn't have if I were to do it, I wouldn't directly have the Skywalkers. I wouldn't have Leia and Luke involved in the story. I would kind of retool it and put it in the chaos out in the Ascendancy, and have Ezra and Ahsoka be and the crew of the Ghosts be the main heroes, and then Thrawn being what we know about Thrawn from the new novels, and then have elements of the Imperial remnant that were left to their own devices after the Battle of Jakku. Whoever is loyal to Thrawn within the known galaxy, or lesser space, as the Chiss call it. I love that, by the way. Like, I think that's so
Lesser space, yeah.
Oh man, it's so elitist. I love it. I'm just like, yeah, that fits. I'm like, yo, this is like a whole major aspect of the galaxy, and they call it lesser space. That's beautiful. But yeah, like, have the Heir to the Empire story take place in the Ascendancy, in the chaos, during the same time period, and give us a story that could run concurrent to the sequel trilogy. One thing that I've always complained about with the Star Wars universe galaxy, it's always felt way too small, and there's ways that they should tell stories that don't involve the Skywalker legacy and take place in other parts of the galaxy, on new planets. They don't all have to look like Tatooine and Hoth, but like just new planets, like, and make it feel like a galaxy. Like, one interesting thing about and I don't know if this is I don't know if it's canon, but the Senate seats in the Republic, like at one point this was canon, but each senator like represented 1,024 worlds in the Republic. So like, if you think about that, like that's 1,000 systems. That's over 1,000 systems, right? In Mandalore is 1,500 systems. So like, they're too large. Mandalore is too large to be in the Republic, the way it's structured and the way it's organized, which is why it's independent. So like, just growing the galaxy, making it feel a lot larger than it has in the past, and telling these sub stories. That's what I kind of like about Rogue One. It was like a micro story. It's still connected to the main story, but it's still disjointed enough to be its own thing. But they need to go further in that direction and introduce brand new characters, new worlds, new stories within the same same timeline. Have some run some interference. That's what I like about the new Thrawn novels, is that the first trilogy the Ascendancy books take place same time as the Clone Wars, but they're so disjointed. Like, none of the events of the Clone Wars really directly affect what's going on in the Chaos, and vice versa. We need more stories like that. Like, we need that. Like, just make the galaxy feel large.
I agree. And that is one of the things I've been enjoying about canon, is because they've been making this universe broader and not just taller, which I enjoy.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, I've read like 56
Countless
books about Jaina Solo specifically, but no, they're making broad. To what you're saying though, I love when Thrawn asks, like, what is the Clone Wars, and Padme's like, oh, the Separatists, they want to be separate from the Republic, and then he's like, why don't you just let them leave?
Right.
Right. She's like,
It's like,
he's like, just let
I
them
don't
go.
understand. Yeah.
I don't understand the purpose of this war. It doesn't make any sense. But anyways, Christy, what do you think?
Well, obviously Mara, but you can't have Mara without Talon Card.
Yes.
He's super interesting.
Underrated pick.
Him or Booster. Him or Booster. You can have a whole series on Booster, and it would probably be the most chaotic thing ever, but it would be great.
It would be amazing.
I actually have a pitch for Lucasfilm that heavily involves Booster. I want like pirate content in Star Wars with Hondo, and like they run up on Booster in his red Star Destroyer, and like, yeah,
that was
And then Core and Horn's relationship, they kind of remind me of Sam and Bucky, so we can do like a Falcon Winter Soldier type show. Buddy cop right there. But
Core and Horn.
and then with Booster's daughter, and they're like, it's just so awkward but so great at the same time. What was his daughter's name again? It's escaping me.
I would mix him up with. Let me look. I'm on the page because I had to look up to make sure I didn't mess up Talon's last name.
Also, they are canon by appearance of a statue only, but I actually really like the Islamari as a plot device. I just thought they were interesting. Although I'm happy that we don't have a Luke, a weird can't speak clone.
Oh, God.
I don't know. He makes me uncomfy.
Actually, I had a fanfic that involved cloning Luke Skywalker, but it was kind of like one of those B plots that may or may not be that important, depending on the reception. But they kind of killed that when they cloned Luke's hand to make Snoke. That's like,
we don't know. We don't know
it was
that
implied,
yet. We know
right?
We know that they had the hand. That's all we know at this point. But sorry, what did you say? What was your name? I didn't catch it.
It's Mirax.
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 That's right. I gotta forget Mirax.
You could just do a whole story off them because you don't even have to connect it to the Skywalker story, but it's still up there.
It's a flying casino in space.
Really
that's dope. But yeah, what character? What character or story would you bring in, Krim?
So I would have to go with. Initially, I wanted to try and lump in the entirety of Wedge's squadron together. as one character, because I mean, can you imagine that on screen right now with the effects that we have? Just all the X-Wing books just made into. But I have to go with Corin Horn. I mean, he not only does he lead into it, but he's like he's so good. I mean, that he would be the perfect sort of character to take the torch on after Luke Skywalker. I think that would be really, really nice to see him. Like, perhaps Luke sends him on some sort of mission that takes him out of the known regions. Maybe he crosses paths with Ahsoka at some point. Maybe he ends up out there in Chiss space, or maybe it's somewhere else. There's so many different things you can do with him. What if they did like Heir to the Empire, but with Korn instead? That would be pretty cool. You know?
They're
There's so many
that,
different things.
They're going to do that with Grogu. Because there's no way they're going to kill Grogu. He's not going to. I cannot see him dying in that temple massacre.
Grogu's not going to stay at Luke's long because of how much money.
Yeah, he's not going to stay there.
There's no way we're not going to.
There's no way they're not killing that character.
But I think Corin Horn is he could open the door to seeing exactly how vast the galaxy is. You know, how his adventures just carry you across, you know, one end to the next, and it can really open the door to a whole new cast of characters. He interacts with so many different people. His existence affecting so many different stories and just being tied in to so many different plots. Seeing things from his perspective as well, it will be really, really good.
And so not only that, but one thing that's really cool about Corin is just the difference in his force abilities. I think we get into this problem of, you know, we saw Luke develop his force abilities and then just make the assumption everyone has those abilities and they all function the same way. When, you know, I see people comparing certain things that Rey did and Luke did, whereas like, you know, Rey couldn't see Force Ghosts until the very end, and Luke could do that instantly. Now, and they describe it as different people have different things. Some people naturally are better at dancing. Some people are great at singing. My voice is terrible, but I've been playing drums for, 15 years now. You can learn these other things. Certain things just come naturally to you. Corin Horn had no abilities to do telekinesis, but his illusion abilities were top notch. And I think, you know, showing characters that just have different innate skill sets, kind of like how, you know, Ezra is great at connecting with animals, you know, and I love that about him as a character.
Druids.
Yeah, just even, you know, just starting out first time, he's just better than Kanan is already. And I really like that that kind of concept and building that out, you know what I mean?
I mean, it's the same thing with Obi-Wan and Qui-Gon. Like, Qui-Gon can't use a Force mind trick to save his life. Good Lord. But Obi-Wan is just like cakewalking through it. Like, you know, like that's always been a thing. Like, certain people just have a natural affinity towards certain abilities. Like, even with Force healing, like, not everybody was able to Force heal. Because like Force healing is not a new concept to Star Wars and to
no, they had a whole Force healing core and stuff. I mean, even because in the EU they had that with the Jedi during the Clone Wars. Like, there was like a core that was dedicated to Force healing. To your point,
Barris
also
was
in
a Force
canon
healer
too.
Barris was literally on the cover art of a book as a Force healer.
Yeah. So it's always been a technique through the Force, but not everyone
the
has been able
Starbucks?
to use it.
I think so. She's holding a clone in her arms and using the Force to heal his abdominal wound, blaster wound.
Yeah,
those are good books.
Well, all right, so we are running out of time, so I gotta ask 2 questions. What super underrated character do you like, and you know, where do they come from? But also, let's hear, you know, your favorite Legends character and that character's best book or series. If you can kind of wrap that up in a package. I know that's a tough one for most people, but I'm gonna go to Christy first because I feel like she already has that unlocked.
Underrated. I love Wes Jensen. I think he's
Oh,
hilarious.
how could you? How could you do that to me?
I'm sorry if I stole yours. I just think he brings out the absolute best and worst in everybody.
Yeah.
And you just have to have a character like that. And then obviously my favorite is the Sword of the Jedi, Jaina Solo. I think her best series is probably Legacy of the Force. It's really cool to see her train with the Mandalorians. And it's really cool to see her step into her role as Sword of the Jedi. I get in fights with people all the time, and you've probably seen it on my TikTok comments when people say Jason should have won. And I'm like, and it goes back to like,
Hell no.
Like, no. And the thing is, too, is I believe neither of them should have won because the whole point of their story arc is that they're equals. They're different. They have different abilities and they have different strengths and weaknesses, but they equal out.
The Mandalorian training, though, the Mandalorian training has to be an edge that he doesn't have. We're talking about people who are professional Jedi killers. Come on.
When they're like, oh, you have no idea how to use a sword, huh? And like, of course I do. I have a lightsaber. Like, yeah, it's not a sword.
No. Their whole interaction with her is just hilarious. Yeah. But it's also like, it makes you look at being a Jedi so differently. And I think that like the whole time, every time they battle, they're equals. When they battle each other, when they think they're fighting Darth Vader, neither of them are going to win. The only reason she has a leg up in the first fight in Invincible is because Luke helps her, because he knows they're equals. And the only reason she wins the battle is because he decides his prophecy is worse. If he could find a way to take Jaina out and him die as long as Alana lives, he would have done it. Mm-hmm. But he couldn't. So that always gets me so heated when people say she should have lost. I'm like, nope, she shouldn't have, because she's awesome. And you really see it in that series. Like, she really, because everyone focuses on Anakin or Jason, and then once you hit that series, it's like, oh, wait, maybe the sister is pretty cool.
Oh, she was cool when she was flying X-Wings. Come on.
Okay, I need like a Hot Toys Stealth X. That's what I need.
Oh my god! Yes,
please.
Yes,
also,
please.
Kind of going back
to afford it.
Kind of going back to the previous question, it says, a show about Luke reading to Grogu about Tython and how Satil Shan through the Force found the world. I always love the concept of an anthology series told in a story. I mean, we got Princess Bride style, but it means that we can really condense a story. We don't need to hit the in-between parts. We can hit the parts that matter and get more context on another time. I just love those concepts.
Why don't we have that?
Dude, that's a very underrated character too, by the way.
She's
in my
really
opinion.
good.
How about you, Krim?
I'm ready to rock, baby.
Awesome.
I'm ready to rock. Underrated character, Wedge Antilles.
Okay.
I was gonna say Pelion. To be honest with you, I love Pelion. Mm-hmm. And honestly,
over there on Bastion,
I'm going to have to say, the character that is my favorite in the EU is EU Boba Fett. No question. Besides Thrawn, I mean, Thrawn is different, but EU Boba Fett, I mean, it's so, the way that his psychology is explored is really fantastic. When she said Legacy of the Force, this is the book for me, right here, about Boba Fett, and it is Bloodlines by Katarn Travis. That book is amazing for me. It explores his family. It explores Jason's fall to the dark side. And I have to say that it really, that whole, the Legacy of the Force, that whole series is so good. So absolutely. But as for my favorite underrated character, it's Wedge Antilles. Wedge Antilles is definitely my favorite underrated character. She said Wes Jensen, and I mean, I couldn't agree more. And there was a comment that said Wes's and Hobby's interactions are priceless. They're amazing. They're amazing. Star Wars news. There were times I would cry laughing I would just have my nose in the book in the middle of class after completing my assignment. And then I would just start dying, and my teacher's like, is there something you'd like to share with the class? And I'd stand up and be like, damn right there is. But you probably won't get it due to the context. I mean, I don't know if you guys ever read Star Wars, X-Wing Starfighters of Ajumar. That's a really great one. And they had a joke in there about, how they used to call the bathrooms the refreshers.
Yes, they still do.
And
they're called refreshers. So, I don't care. They don't have to make that canon. That's what they are.
They're refreshers. So they were on a planet which actually had not been in contact with the greater galaxy. They didn't have space travel. They only had atmospheric vehicles called Ajumar, and they were basically like still using old technology. So when they got there, the New Republic representative told them, "We're going to have to give you a rundown how to use the restrooms." And of course, Wes Jensen cracks and goes, "You mean we're going to have a refresher course?" And it's like, that joke of the century. I mean, honestly. But yeah, that's my piece.
I love it. That's great. Also, Krim, I don't know if you've tried jumping into the canon books at all, but I actually am going to highly recommend that you check out the Alphabet Squad trilogy.
No, you can't see it. My lighting is terrible. I got Thrawn. Cool.
Yes.
So you got Thrawn. Okay. The Alphabet Squadron trilogy is great, especially like the first and the final book are my favorite. But if you love these pilots, this explores that in such depth and such detail, and the characters are so well fleshed out. Okay. Not only but on both sides, on both the Republic and the Empire sides, and you end up coming to this weird conclusion of like, all of these are the same people, and they'd be friends.
They are.
Exactly.
Like Baron Fell and all of them on the Imperial side. Those are great characters, dude. They're amazing characters.
I was debating between him and Wes Jensen.
He's so good, right?
I was debating. I'm still debating him.
They're so good. That's why I liked Truce at Bakura, because you saw the New Republic and the Empire come together and actually realize, well, the Imperial guys that are believers, they're not so bad, It's just those douchebags that are corrupt and xenophobic and everything that give the Empire a bad name. But people like Palion, like Thrawn, like Baron Fell, those dudes are pretty chill, man.
So yeah, they kind of normalized that was also. I'm sorry, but they did a good job in the EU of normalizing the factions, like just making them relatable and like giving us relatable characters on all sides. Like that was that, and it doesn't matter what time period you pick in the EU, like you're going to be able to relate to characters on both sides. And they're not too many large like centralized factions. Like of course you have your Republic and you got your Empire and you got your Sith Empire, you got your, like they all are there, but it's the other factions as well. Like when they start going into the Mandalorians, when they start bringing in the Hapes, like when you start bringing in the warlords and the fractured Empire, like it's like, yo, this is good content.
Interesting.
Yeah.
And that again is why I really want to hear Krim's thoughts on Alphabet Squadron specifically, because it's at a time point where, like, if you read the canon comics, you know that the rebels ended up stealing a Star Destroyer and kind of reclaiming it at one point. And so there's this weird fundamental switch because they end up having to use it in the third book, which is not a spoiler, by the way, but this is after Project Cinder and all this stuff. And the Empire no longer has infinite resources. So the Empire, and they have to fix their own stuff, and like, they were acting more like the rebels were at this point in time. Whereas now the galaxy is getting together and starting to form this new republic. And so like there's this weird fundamental switch, and I think it's incredible.
I'll definitely have to check that out. How many books are in that series?
Just three. And Levi's on my side here. But Yeah, Coop, you ready?
Yeah. Okay. So this is. I've got a. All right. Here's what I'm going to do. We haven't talked too much about video games, and there's a character in particular that, for whatever reason, has been left out of the conversation entirely, and that is Katarn. I don't know how we managed to do that throughout this hour and a half. But
I actually wasn't gonna leave him out. I have a whole thing playing with Katarn, but go ahead.
But yeah, that would be my dude. Like, I mean, what's not to love about Katarn? We need more Katarn, and I personally would like to see Finn go in that direction because that's what I thought they were going to go with.
Same.
I mean, who didn't think that? Only
like,
people that didn't know Kyle Katarn.
Exactly. If you didn't know Katarn, then you didn't see that coming. But when I was like, oh, he's a stormtrooper, now the next thing I see him is he's holding a lightsaber. And I'm like, oh, it's Katarn, and he's black. Oh, I'm going crazy. Like, and I'm like, oh, that's awesome. And then it's yet to be seen. I hope though, but it's possible. It's still a possibility. It's
absolutely
still
possible.
It's still on the table.
And I fully believe that the best part of Star Wars is the books. Personally, I would rather get it as a book than as a movie.
That movie,
why not
book series? I don't mind like a live action series. I don't mind a video game. I don't care what format you give it to me. Just give it to me. Like, I'm not gonna complain. Also, too, what I would like though is when he constructs his lightsaber, it to be made out of a stormtrooper blaster. Boop, that's it.
Ooh,
with the white. Can you imagine the white hilt? Like like because you know his.
Are you talking about the first order stormtrooper?
Yes.
Yeah. Repurpose it to look like So imagine what's my man Qui-Gon's lightsaber silhouette, but where the silver is, it's white.
Mm-hmm.
Same thing.
Really cool. I would like that.
You just shave the grip, the pistol grip off, and kind of like configure it a different way. I can see them adapting it. As long as they don't make it like an Ezra thing.
It could not like that. Like the barrel, like take the barrel of the blaster and like just do your thing. Make it look like a lightsaber. Don't make it look like a
you just want to MacGyver it.
Yeah, I'm like, that's why I said like the Qui-Gon lightsaber would be the silhouette that I would choose, but then just kind of sort of change the color palette a little bit. Just
in my head canon, I had him like creating something that was like Corin Horn's lightsaber.
That's gonna be for Corin Horn when he gets into canon.
The silver that with the dual actuation and it turns purple. Like, I don't know. That was like I lived for that.
Well, my whole
off of
thing,
a speeder bike handle.
Yeah, my whole thing with the character though, like it for me, it's I want him to embrace his past as a stormtrooper, but also like move forward and like both him and Rey. Like, I just want them to embrace who they are, who they were, and like understand that that's integral to their characters individually, and like that's a strength, it's not a weakness. And like to see that like in those characters, them both reflecting like her, Rey accepting that she is a Palpatine, and like also still wanting to be a Jedi, and like because I love the poetry, like the duality of that, like the legacy that brought down the Order has an offspring that will rebuild it. Like, come on, that's like, give me that. That's beautiful. That's poetry. And then with Finn, like him being a stormtrooper, embrace that legacy. Like, that Kyle Katarn, it's right there. Like, just take that same storyline. He's got the wit and the personality and all of that stuff, that everything that we loved about Kyle Katarn, it's there in the character. All they have to do is just follow that story.
He just needs a little bit more lines than Rey.
Yeah, that would be nice too. a little bit.
A little bit more. Little less Rey. A little more.
Just a little. But also,
I like how go ahead.
Another one I have to shout out because it's Kreia. But I know we're going to do another stream with Old Republic stuff. But like, I need that because for me, KOTOR 2, I like KOTOR 2 better than KOTOR 1. That's like a very unpopular opinion.
But Kreia is underrated.
She is so underrated because those conversations, like,
Kreia underrated, Nihilus overrated.
I don't think so.
Screw Nihilus, bro.
I think Nihilus.
Get the way out of here.
What? Nihilus is the embodiment of the dark side, not the Sith, but the dark side. And I think they used the character wrong, in my opinion. Like
Maybe that's
anyway.
what it
That's
is.
that's a discussion for
We,
another
we
day.
will.
Because
I'm gonna write that down.
if you think about what Nihilus can do, he's the perfect antithesis to Rey in the future. But let's talk about that because I got a theory that like
We got to do that fanfic podcast, bro.
I'm trying to tell you, like I've got it.
I'm here for it.
Thinking
I'm here
about
for it, brother.
Before we move on, can I make one point about lightsabers? We need to Nelka Dejo's Rancor Tooth lightsaber.
Yes.
So I live in Orlando, so I go to Disney all the time, and they have it now that you can, when you build your own lightsaber, you can do a Rancor Tooth. And I'm like, oh, that's so cool. Yeah, I was like, I'm not going to do that because I want mine to look like Jaina's, but that's so cool.
Yeah.
Yeah, and so I was just gonna call. Well, I lost it, but there we go. So I always say starting to think that shows are better than the books or movies. We need longer form. We need a longer form than movies. That's why I don't want certain legend stories in film because
they're not going to work.
They wouldn't work. If you tried to do Heir to the Empire, the first book would be all 3 movies. It would have, if you try to do Bane, the first Bane book, the first book would be all 3 movies. You can't get around it because you need more time. You just don't have the time, and that's why I want more stories going forward in either TV form or book form. Now, so I wasn't gonna let Kyle Katarn. I'm just gonna give you guys my pitch for a video game. I apologize. I'm getting excited. I gotta go with this, but I want Kyle Katarn to have existed in the Empire, and he's a stormtrooper right now, part of a high elite squad of 8 people. Right, there's 2 squadrons of 4, really. And back in the day when the Empire is trying to take a place away from someone, and they're resisting, we just drop these people on the ground.
The shock troopers.
But more subtle than that. I want them
like
infiltrators. They can do political assassinations. They can destabilize a government because they know who to hit, how to hit them, who to hack electronically, and drop these guys behind enemy lines. Give them 2 months. Come back. You got the planet. That's what I want. I want. I want what's it called? Again, from Battlefront, we've seen Battlefront 2 where they're just trying to destroy stuff. I already mentioned it earlier.
Inferno Squad?
No, the thing that Palpatine's drones told people to do and anyways, I'll have him defect at that point in time. He comes to Coruscant. Yes, Operation Cinder. So I want.
Made a good point. I straight thought Winter Soldier when you said like killing people because doesn't he kill like JFK and the thing that he was like Inferno Squad time?
That's true.
Winter Soldier program, and I was like, that's exactly where my mind went with Hydra.
No, but imagine he defects, right? He and his crew of his group of 4 defect. He drops into Coruscant, and while he's there, the other 4 that didn't defect show up on a random transport, just like they used to do in the old days. And he's like, holy crap, I'm trying to lie low, but if these 4 are here, that means that the remnant is trying to take Coruscant. I don't know what that means. And so first he has to go and take down the other 3 from his squad who have like taken over different gangs or whatever like that to find out what he can about them. Then he has to take them down. I want this to be a video game. While he's doing this, if you do exploration, you can find Jedi artifacts or things like that and start to feel the Force and build up your Force affinity and understand that portion. That's my pitch for a video game. That's what I need. It's not the Force isn't necessary for it, but you can get there.
So I've got a question then for you. And you've read the new Thrawn novels, right?
Yeah.
So what if instead of him being an operative for the Empire, he's an operative for the Grisk?
Don't do that. No, man.
Why not just for Thrawn?
Because like if hear me out, that's what the Grisp are doing. That's literally their MO. That's what they do. They destabilize governments.
But could
That's
he be like a
exactly how
counter
they
agent?
operate.
It's more mind domination than like being a group of spies.
But then he's now like, but they can still have like a militant group, an operative group that go in and do that. Like I know what we've gotten in the novels has been more on the political front, but you can also have that element, that spec ops group, that team that can go in and do the same thing, but with more aggressive negotiations, if you will. And then that would give him connections to Thrawn as well as the Empire.
I see. I do.
And
I
then
do
if
like
he
it.
ever
I do
met
like it.
Luke, then that'd be interesting because then it makes him
They'd
a
start out
very-
with a conflict, and have to build into something else.
right,
Possibly.
possibly.
Yeah. No. I think there's a lot of interesting things.
That sounds like it's a whole
But-
podcast all on its own.
It is, and I don't want to steal all of the time. Real quick though, my underrated character, Saba Sabatine. I love her
knew somebody was
so much, and like having this weird. Okay, first of all, '90s Spider-Man was my life. So finding a Jedi that was just the lizard with a lightsaber, this was dope. And then having her. Because the way that she talks, being a lizard is not emotional, and you're like, aren't you supposed to show compassion or stuff? But she's the least likely to fall to the dark side because the emotion isn't part of it.
Mm-hmm.
And I find her species and her story, how she trained Leia, is super interesting. I think she's super underrated. We haven't seen a Barbell in canon, I believe. And I would like to see them introduced. Plus, when they have their own weird little nest underneath the Jedi Temple and they're fighting in Fate of the Jedi, like I just love that. Fate of the Jedi is a weird series, but that's a whole side topic. But my favorite character is also Jaina, so I would have to mirror everything that you said because all of it is right. But in order to be different, I guess I'll say Jason. Mostly because of his love for his daughter. And screw that. I'm going with his daughter, Alana, because I need more stories with Alana, and she has like that pet Nexu that she's bonded with. And there's visions of her on the Sith throne. Like I don't know. I think we could have some amazing Alana stories.
She'll make Darkseid Ray look like a punk.
I mean, her father was a super powerful Jedi turned Sith Lord. Her mother is descended from Dathomirian witches turned Jedi. She has a pet Nexu, and I just think there's some cool stuff that we could do with that character.
We definitely need to see more stories from Dathomir. Since you just mentioned that, like, oh my god, give us more Force users and Force factions, and bring back Sith alchemy.
Yes.
Like
Force factions for sure.
Matter of fact, bring back the red skin Sith, the species. I need that to happen. And I like one of my biggest gripes with George was him changing Korriban to Morban, bro. Oh my god. Bro, Morban sounds like something that you put on your feet to fight like athlete's foot. Like it's a foot cream.
It just made me think
like,
of Adam
cringe.
Sandler of like chlorophyll, more like borophyll. And you're like,
Right.
Shut up! It's why?
Oh, why would you do that? Why? Oh, but anyways,
I am cool with that. As I don't think we need ship. A weird eyeball like floating around. It's like moist looking and stuff. Like I don't know. I'm cool with not having that. But yeah, we are
not unless they make him into Mordor.
Ooh, the boss is some. Element 7 just said the boss in the chat. They are an interesting species. I love that. I love that in the Republic. I love them, man. Oof, that's a good one.
I will say
Yeah.
I want to take a step back and go back to the Dathomir. I want to see Ventress in live action. I want to see her not be dead like she did in the books. I want to see her come back, and I want to see her just interact with Ahsoka and just do her own story on the side, and maybe start up her own clan, a little. I can't even remember now. What are they called again? Night Sisters. Night Sisters. God, I drew a blank. But yeah, I think that would be really cool to see her story explored more on screen.
I will say, I actually do love her story in Dark Disciple, and I thought that the end was beautiful. But in the canon book, so just so you guys know, yes, I've read 133 Legends books, read all of canon books as well. In Clone War Stories of Light and Dark, it just retells most of the stories, but from specific points of view. But the final story is a unique one, and it shows that there are two Dathomirian witches from... Sorry, there's a Dathomirian witch from that clan that was destroyed, that does survive and make it on off of planet, and she finds a young girl to become her new apprentice. So they kind of left open like a little door there. So I do think that's cool. But to kind of wrap up, I gotta ask. So you now have Kathleen Kennedy's power, right? You can greenlight the next project that's going to happen. Whatever the project is, you have the stamp. You can make it happen. I got to ask, what project are you making happen? That's question one. Question two is, of the projects that we know of, this could be book, movie, TV show, what are you most excited and looking forward to? And then number three is if you guys have any closing thoughts and where we can find you and your content. All right. And for this one, I can't remember who I started with, so I will go to Christy to start.
Okay. There's a lot of parts to this. So if I was Kathleen Kennedy...
You can ask me if you ever get lost, so let me know.
President of Lucasfilm.
That would be such a toss-up, because I really want the Sword of the Jedi book series. I want her to say, do it. I think with Disney Plus and having shows, I think you could bring in more, like, we could actually see, like, the new Jedi Order series play out, because there's so much. But if you had it in a series with seasons, you could see it a lot better than movies. But I think I would choose the books, I think.
Yeah.
There's potential in that, because did you see that they recently trademarked Jedi Academy or Skywalker Academy?
Did they really?
Yeah, they filed that patent trademark. So fingers crossed. But I think if that's where you're going, you and Kathleen might have something. You know, y'all might be cooking there.
Well, they can just hire me and I'll come up with all her ideas.
That
let's let her do
idea.
it. That
sounds like
Chris
a great
do it.
idea.
Because sometimes I think like you need another girl's opinion. Because then sometimes the stories get a little muddled.
Absolutely.
One of my favorite quotes Sebastian Stan says is, "Females get directors and producers get things done, and the story doesn't get all confused sometimes." And sometimes he feels like with men, he's like, "Wait, where is this going?"
Then is Kathleen Kennedy secretly a man? Because I can never figure out where she's going with any of her decisions.
Ooh, yikes.
Just saying.
Oh, man.
No, I think she just has too much on her plate because she's doing Star Wars and Indiana Jones. I think she
just let the creators create. I mean, she's a great executive producer, but...
I mean, you know, the promotion of Dave Filoni to his position is exactly letting creators create. And say what you will about, you know, how you feel about the sequel trilogy. Disney Star Wars has been very successful. The brand is more profitable now than relevant, popular right now, and more valuable right now. So, yeah, I mean, I guess it is what it is. but yeah, what sorry, going back to Christy, I don't think you answered all the
Yeah,
questions.
what were the other questions?
All right, so you got your green light with Sword of the Jedi. What upcoming project are you most excited for? And then once again, where can we find you and your content?
I am so excited for the Lando show. I love Donald Glover. I think he portrayed him amazing. That's just my opinion. Solo wasn't, and I know some people are going to be upset that I say this, that are friends with me that are in this right now. Solo wasn't one of my favorites. It's good. Don't get me wrong. But I thought Donald Glover did a great job, and I'm excited to see where he goes with that character and what that show is going to bring.
I watched Solo, and my first thought was like, this should have been a series. Like, it would have it would have worked, in my opinion, way better.
Does anyone know if they're going to continue that storyline?
They should. I don't have a problem with the story. I don't have a problem with actors. Like, I just felt like the story was just truncated, and
there's too many facets of it.
Yeah, there were too many things going on and it needed to breathe. Like,
and they just threw Maul in there. They threw Kira there at the end. You're just like, what is going on? What's happening?
Story
what's happening?
Here's another one. Another plot.
We don't need backstory for everything.
What's going on?
It felt like that was like the start of the Avengers franchise, and we were just going to get a bunch of offshoots.
Exactly.
Of Solo.
It's like they tried to get
what's going on, you know?
But that being said, Levi says what he would greenlight is a Solo sequel, no question.
Absolutely, I wouldn't do a movie.
I mean,
though.
I wasn't the biggest fan of Solo, but I'm here for it. Do it.
I don't need a backdrop story. I just need to know what's going to happen next.
It was a fun, lighthearted. Like,
make a
that's
Solo
what it was.
DC Plus show.
I enjoyed it. It was fun, and I think it would have worked better. Like, if it were a series that I could just kick back and just relax and watch and see what crazy adventure Han Solo's going on today. Like, you know, like that's what I was looking forward to. Like,
he's going to a flying casino.
Exactly.
And there
like,
you go.
I don't care where we go.
Big red Star Destroyer.
Plus,
why not?
Plus, that means we could bring in Afra.
Lando?
We could bring in
exactly. There's so many other. It's there's potential there with the Solo. So I think that's a good one. I think hopefully they continue that story through Lando. Like, I hope that's what they do.
Yeah, they could bring Lando and Solo and just do two separate shows that just have tie-ins like once or twice a season, like CW style, the way they did like The Flash and Supergirl and all that, and Green Arrow. Just have them running concurrently. So then you have Han and Lando, they meet up, they'll go on a crazy adventure, then they go their separate ways, and then you just continue to see Han doing whatever Han does, and then you have Lando doing Lando things. Because they're kind of those wayward friends, you know, they're not always together, but when they get together, they just have some crazy adventures. So I think that would be really nice to see.
I would love that if you never knew who was going to end up with the Falcon at the end of the movie.
Exactly.
They kept switching hands.
Exactly. They keep trying to steal it from each other. That would be great. That'd be amazing.
But then lastly, where can we find you and your content?
TikTok at TwinSun1.
Yes. And she's always cosplaying Jaina, and it's always amazing. I love it. I love your content. It makes me happy every time I see it. Krim, those 3 questions. You got the green light button. What are you most excited for coming up? And then where can we find you in any content you got?
I'm going to do what I'm most excited for first. I'm most excited for Book of Boba Fett. I'm a huge Boba Fett fan. Based on his storyline from the EU, as I mentioned earlier. And I think that seeing him, you know, they always, George always said, and the writers that were behind the scenes were saying, that they always wanted to try and do like a Godfather type of story in Star Wars that really explores the underworld and the vastness across the galaxy. I want to see freaking Boba Fett as the Godfather and as Sonny and as Michael and doing all the things. I want to see him going out there and interacting with Crimson Dawn, with Black Suns, all of it. I want to see him put down freaking... Exactly. He could do that.
The Hapes.
Bring in
Prince underrated.
Look, Boba versus the Hapes, just by himself. Just Boba out there, just like Master Chief. Just.
I want to see Boba take down Prince Izor. That would be a game of chess that I would love to see. I want to see them really show what makes Boba great. And... # make Boba Fett great again. I think that would be amazing. So Book of Boba Fett, that's my that's the thing I'm most excited for. And I have to say I'm tied for Kenobi. Those two shows. Those are going to be crazy.
Oh man, there's so much potential there.
Awesome.
If I have the green light to do any project, it would be a complete disservice if I didn't say Thrawn. But I mean all of Thrawn. Any book from the EU that had to do with Thrawn, just smash them all together, make it a 5-season to 9-season show, and then bring in, make it. You have flashbacks, you have offshoots, show Palion, show the Imperial Remnant, get into the Warlords. I want all of it. We get the Grisk, we get
Jerusalem,
the
Saba.
Ascendancy. Yeah, Saba. I don't care. All of it. Anything that had to do with Thrawn, I want it. I want it, and I want it now. Or you're all fired except Dave and John. That's what I would greenlight for sure. They might be doing that already. So, but if they're doing that already, then I'll go with the Legacy of the Force storyline. We'll do all of that. Give me the Mandalorians. Give me Boba Fett training Jaina Solo. I want it. Show it to me.
And then lastly, where do we find you and any content you make?
I have not started making content yet. I've just recently even had the idea to get into the space. I've been interacting on the Den of Nerds Discord for the most part, according to the Sokovian handle. I've been guesting on some streams lately. That's been really nice. Coop had me on a recent stream talking fan fiction. I am a writer. I do poetry. I do long form fiction. So I do a lot of stuff like that. But for now, you can just find me on the Discord of the Den of Nerds, and my channel is going to be up soon, though. I've got microphone, cam, and hopefully a better computer on the way. So I'll be doing streams and bringing content to you soon. I am on YouTube, though, and according to the Sokovian, but all you'll find there is 2-year-old videos of video game clips. So if you feel like going through those, I have some pretty funny ones, so feel free.
Well, when you got stuff set up, then let me know. I'll definitely have you back. You can talk about it, and I look forward to checking it out.
Oh, one more thing. Quick. I'm sorry.
Go ahead.
I would be criminal if I didn't ask Christy to before we end, show us her lightsaber. I want to see the Jaina lightsaber, but yeah, that's all.
I'll let Coop talk, and then I'll go grab it.
All right. And real quick, so I got Sheev the Wise here. We know him from Sheev is he's just the GOAT, but
Vader's
Obi-Wan
Castle.
and Anakin's story between episode 1 and 2, which I think would be amazing because, honest, like without the Clone Wars, they don't have a relationship. They aren't together at any point. In the Phantom Menace, Obi-Wan's kind of a dick too.
Another useless life form.
Yeah, and then they're together in episode 2 for a very short period of time, and then they separate. And he's super snarky, like, "Hey, Master, we came to rescue you. Good job."
That's one of my favorite lines, though.
The Jedi Quest books, that's the ones he's in, right? With Anakin when he trains them. That's why they're so good, because you see their relationship. And then you also see other Jedi questioning Anakin, like, is he okay? And Obi-Wan, you see his extent of, like, protecting Anakin with, like, Siri Tachi's apprentice, Fierce Orin, always, like, butting heads with Anakin. He's like, you have to get Anakin's emotions in check. And Obi-Wan's like, no, he's fine. And it's like, no, he's not.
But by the way, from a certain point of view, Empire Strikes Back brought Siri Tachi in the canon, and Obi-Wan talks about their hands touching in the lunchroom at the Jedi temple and him feeling guilty. I just kind of love it. Element 7, for him, it's between an Old Republic Disney series or a High Republic Disney series. That's all the stream has added for what they would greenlight for now. But stream, if there are things that you would like to greenlight, let me know and I'll bring it up top here. But yeah, what do you think?
Well, if Element wants to see some Old Republic stuff, then he's gonna like me as president, or she.
Element's a guy.
Okay, all right. I should have said they, but okay. Yes, so yeah, I would green light immediately. Actually, as a matter of fact, I don't know if y'all saw the news today about Zack Snyder having a pitch for a Kurosawa like Seven Samurai style Star Wars movie before I think The Force Awakens came out that they didn't go ahead with. But what I would do, I would get Zack Snyder to work with Dave Filoni on a 100-Year Darkness series set in the Old Republic, and let them together build out the mythos of the Jedi and the Sith, and the origin story of that conflict. I think that would be a great series for Disney Plus. So that would be the series that I greenlight. And then as far as what I'm looking forward to, it's definitely the Ahsoka show, Book of Boba, Mando season 3, and then Kenobi. I'm interested in see where they go with Kenobi, but Ahsoka more so than anything because I've got some ongoing theories that I've been spewing on my channel about where that show could be going. Krim and I have talked about it on a previous stream. But yeah, like I'm curious to see how this series connects to the Thrawn novels, because that's kind of sort of what I've been speculating on. And I got to shout out Normies to Nerds real quick too. Kendall, I was on his stream yesterday talking Star Wars. Great dude. He should definitely continue to do more content because I like his channel and what he's got going on over there.
Nice. I'll definitely follow him and check out his stuff.
Yeah, he's cool dude, man. Great host. But you can find me on at Certified Gumbo on Twitter, Twitch, Instagram, and Facebook, and then also on YouTube at Certified Gumbo. We've got a variety of content. It's not just me. It's got 3 other hosts that come on, and we do a show called The Cookout on Saturdays, 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time.
I'm in.
Yeah, we just talk about a variety of nerdy entertainment topics. Like Imani is the host, and she picks the topics, and we just kick back, talk to the stream and to each other about these topics. And then on Fridays, I do a Bad Batch review for each episode at 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. And on Sundays, I do Star Wars Sundays, and that's me talking Star Wars. I had Krim on the show once. Love to have all of you on the show at some point in time if y'all are open to it. I'll just pick a topic on that's Star Wars related, and we talk Star Wars.
Awesome. I love it. And Normies and Nerds here just said greenlight Luke and Ben Solo. That'd be cool to see him in his young days. I would love, because as we kind of watch through sequels, we see him trying to be something he's not, and hold up too much of your father's heart. By the end of it, when he actually is himself, he's just like Han, just with the Force and a lightsaber. I would love to see young Ben Solo as he's basically just a young Han with the Force. I think that would be such a cool and maybe watching him kind of see Luke as this giant with this legacy, and he's named after Obi-Wan Kenobi with this legendary legacy, and his mom is all this stuff, and he's just like his dad, and he's just like this screw up that I would love to get more context on
basically that. Like Anakin Solo.
Yeah, he was a lot like Anakin Solo, except no one built a weird robot to try and be like him. That was super weird.
Isn't there? I think there's a line in it where Han Solo is talking to Jason. He's like, "I've never really got you because you're your mom." He's like, "Jaina's a perfect mix of me and her mom, and Anakin is just me with a lightsaber."
Yeah, exactly. I love that concept.
I would have loved to see Ben Solo, Kylo Ren, and the Knights of Ren be just independent and do their because the part of the Last Jedi that I liked was the whole thing about get rid of the past. I would have liked them to just be this wrecking crew of Force users that if the First Order gets in our way, we're just gonna mow all of them down. New Republic, whoever, I don't care. We're doing our thing, and they're just like a Force freight train running through the galaxy, just wrecking stuff. Like that's what I would have been like. I would have been 110% on board with that. Like, because we haven't really seen
Zack
that.
Snyder
Like,
might have made the Knights of Ren his seven samurai.
dude,
I mean, they could have done that, but instead it's like
crazy.
Knights of Ren. Who are you?
Who
are these guys?
It would have been like 300.
Yeah,
Knights of Ren. Oh man,
it would have been very long and mostly slow motion. I did myself the disservice of seeing pictures of all the actors who played the Knights of Ren, and now I can't see them as anything but a boy band. Like once you see the actors,
yo,
you know that they are just a boy band that really is into K-pop.
Very
and
edgy.
like that's all I see. That's
Good.
But go ahead. Do you have any finishing thoughts?
I was gonna just piggyback off that. Like there was I never picked it up, but there was a comic run of the Knights of Ren, and like I remember seeing the cover art because it was like black and white with them. Like, man, that silhouette was sick. I was like, man, dude, I needed to see them like just wrecking stuff, like just being like total problems.
I would still I would still love to see more stuff from them, but there's still that time, you know, that time is still available and open for storytelling, and that's
absolutely. I mean, there's so much potential still with just the landscape of the galaxy post the sequels is interesting to me.
Yeah,
very interesting.
All right, guys. Well, it's that time. We actually ran longer, but you guys are too engaging to talk to. I couldn't help it. Sorry. It's just a great topic. I love Legends, and definitely going to have all of you guys back at some point because it was a lot of fun. If you are willing to come back, everyone here who's been watching and hanging out, thank you guys so much. You know, we love all the support. This week was Legends. Next week I'm talking canon, so I am excited to jump into those books and see, talk about what people enjoy and didn't enjoy. Also, we are, for those of us that have seen Rebels, this Saturday is going to be the Rebels quiz. You know, we are giving away a free lightsaber from Level Up Lightsabers. So if you were trying to add a lightsaber to your collection, it is a qualifier. So you don't get the lightsaber if you win, but the top 5 qualify for our final Star Wars quiz. So I got X-Core Gamer Skills. He qualified on the original trilogy one. So we've done original trilogy. We did Clone Wars. This one is Rebels. We have a few more qualifiers, and once we get everyone ready, we're going to do a big quiz that encompasses all of Star Wars, and the winner gets a free lightsaber. So it's going to be exciting.
I mean, time to binge watch Rebels.
All right, guys.
What I did when I went to Star Wars trivia, there were questions I didn't know. Like, I totally forgot what Lando's droid's name was, so I just drew a picture of Lando holding the droid crying when it dies, and I got bonus points. They didn't give me the whole point, but they gave me like half a point, and they were like, "This is good." So everyone has to know I just drew a picture.
That's awesome.
I like that. I'll have to see that sometime.
That was an interesting element they added into that Solo story too. Being like the droid being like the computer
part
for
of the ship.
I was like, oh, that's kind of cool.
Like that.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was. It's really cool. I do like the new droids that they've introduced.
Yeah, because 3PO in the original trilogy remarks at how like just snappy the Millennium Falcon is, and it's like a throwaway line, but it's I love that they picked up on that and was like, oh no, yeah, basically. Oh man, all right, this was fun. Thank you for having me on.
Absolutely. All right, well, I will go ahead and shut this down. Thank you everyone that's still with us, and you guys for coming out, and may the Force be with you always.
Thank you for having us.